Macabrepedia deals with dark subject matter that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
August 9th, 1849, London, England. A 50-year-old moneylender by the name of Patrick O'Connor went to dinner at the home of his friends, Maria and Frederick. A couple of years prior, he'd courted Maria, but she'd married Frederick Manning instead. That was okay with Patrick, though, as he still became her lover, and even friends with both of the Mannings. So this evening, he went over to have dinner and catch up at their house, which was located at 3 Miniver Place, Bermondsey. When he arrived, Maria suggested that Patrick go and wash up before dinner. So he did. As he stood at the sink, washing his hands, Maria pointed a pistol at his head behind his ear and fired. But the bullet did not kill him immediately, and he struggled to speak. Frederick took a crowbar and beat him over and over, finishing the kill. When asked about it later, he said, "I never liked him, so I battered his head with a ripping chisel." The couple then dragged his body over to a prepared grave that they had already dug under the kitchen flagstones. They smothered the body in quicklime and left it under their kitchen, believing that this would speed up the decay of the corpse. Marie and Frederick then sat down in that same room and ate their dinner. We invite you to stay and listen as we add another entry into this, our Macabrepedia.
Welcome to Macabrepedia, a marriage of true crime and the truly bizarre. I'm one of your hosts, Matthew.
And I'm Marissa.
Today we will be exploring
the Bermondsey horror, or the murder of Patrick O'Connor. Marie LaRue was born in Switzerland, but she soon moved to England and became a lady's maid to the Duchess of Sutherland, changing her name to Maria with the move. She'd even met Queen Victoria in the course of her duties, and this job made her accustomed to some of the finer things in life. She didn't ever want to experience poverty ever again. When she was in her early 20s, she had 2 suitors to choose from. One was Patrick O'Connor, who she'd actually met on a boat when she was on a trip with her employer, and the other was Frederick George Manning, who worked as guard. She had a choice to make here. Patrick was a moneylender, and he invested wisely. This meant that he was smart with his money and very wealthy. But Patrick was nearly 30 years older than she was, and he drank a little bit too deep into the bottle sometimes, and Maria didn't really want anything to do with that. I mean, he was kind of an old man to her, I guess.
Yeah, 30-year split. I mean, that's...
He was more than twice her... He was about twice her age.
Mm-hmm.
Frederick had been let go from his job because he was actually suspected of being involved in several robberies, and his background was a little sketchy.
While being a guard? Like inside job kind of stuff?
He was pretty much, there was evidence of him being involved, but they couldn't, pin it on him. So they kind of just let him go for misconduct, but they couldn't charge him with it. But despite this, Frederick swore that he was going to be inheriting a good bit of money from his mother, and he was around her age. Because of this, and the fact that Patrick was not as forthcoming with a proposal, she chose Frederick. And they were married at St. James's Church in Piccadilly on May 27th, 1847. And they tried to make it work. They tried to run a pub called the White Hart in Taunton, which is a small town in Somerset, and the town where Frederick had been born. Shout out to Taunton and Richard Hewish College. I was there briefly in my freshman year of college. Taunton's a really cool little town. I'm sure it has changed quite a lot in the last almost 200 years, but...
I thought you were going to say since you were there.
Well, it probably has then, too.
More so since 1847.
Yeah, for sure. It's not the same thing. I think I looked it up, and it was one of the best places to live in Britain now. So, but I guess maybe back in the day, they just didn't want to be there. Sleepy town, I was
going to say,
young kids,
best basically. Place to live is
usually they're kind of sleepy.
Completely subjective. Yeah, that's
Usually not a whole lot going on. Typical safe quote place to live, stuff like that. It's
supposed to be the nicest place to live is a place where people don't get murdered.
Exactly.
But do they?
But do they? Stay tuned. So they were in Taunton for a while, but it didn't really work out for them, mostly because Frederick was a bad businessman and he was bad with money. And this was a pub, and he really was pretty involved in drinking also. So they moved back to London. And at this point, Maria realized that Frederick was not going to inherit a fortune like he'd claimed he would.
What?
Yeah, so that was
a liar and a thief?
And a drunkard.
And a drunkard.
Yeah. So once they were back in London, because of all this and everything she's realized about Frederick, she met up with Patrick O'Connor again. And he swore to her that he had been about to propose to her when she'd married Frederick. He was like, man, if only you had waited a little while, I was going to propose, I swear.
That's what those planners do. He wanted it to be just right. It was supposed to be amazing. Everything that she had ever dreamed of was all set. And then, sorry.
Exactly. I mean, it's easy to say you're going to do something and then you don't do it. But who's to prove that you weren't going to do it, right? So the two ended up having an affair at this point, and sexual favors were exchanged. And it seemed like Frederick actually knew about it, and he was fine with it.
Some people are into that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to judge, but it comes in later, and it's like, was he jealous, or I don't know. We don't know. I mean, I read a lot about this whole case, and some people said that he was okay with it. Some people said that he was like actually more than okay with it. He was totally happy with it, and some people, of course, said that he was jealous. So, I mean, I don't know what the truth was, but it was a weird situation. And Maria realized, of course, spending more time with Patrick, just how wealthy he was. With him owning railway stocks and earning a great deal of interest from the money that he lent, remember he's a moneylender, and though they were having an affair with the knowledge and consent of her husband, she was only interested in the cash, and she decided that she needed to have it.
Yeah, probably also why Frederick was a little bit a little mix of emotions there. He's okay with it, but it's mostly because he's okay with the fact that
with the money,
this dude's bringing in a bunch of money.
So she's decided this, and Maria goes out and she buys and pays for a bushel of lime that got delivered to the house on July 23rd. And then on August 8th, a large shovel was also delivered to their house. And you might recall, August 9th was the day that he was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the day prior, August 8th with the shovel. And August 8th was also the day that Maria sent a note to Patrick inviting him over to dinner. Patrick did turn up for dinner on the 8th, but he brought his friend Wash along. And this kind of made Maria pretty mad. And she told him that he should come back the next day so that they could get a little bit more alone time and they could have some intimate time. So just come back tomorrow, but make sure you're by yourself. So, of course, he did. With that promise, on August 9th, Patrick made his way to the Mannings' house again, and on the way, he was seen by friends while he was crossing London Bridge, and neighbors of the Mannings reported later seeing him smoking a cigar outside of their house. Since he had arrived alone this time, Maria moved forward with her plan, and as he was washing his hands in a basin, she shot him in the head, and then Frederick bashed him with a crowbar in the head.
Okay, so Frederick was okay with this. He had to have been, not the murder, but I mean their relationship, he had to have been. Like, if she's going to try to get him to swing by the next day so they can get a little more intimate and don't bring your friend, but, like, Frederick's still there. Like, I mean, he knew, like, I'm telling you, some people are just into that thing, but whatever.
It's possible. They may have. This was in 1846 or whatever, so we don't know really for sure.
But they still don't allow him to smoke in the house.
No, of course not. No, he smoked outside.
I was thinking he was smoked outside because the smell of his cigars would let Frederick know that he was there, but apparently Frederick knew that he was there.
Oh, he knew. No, he knew. They were friends. They were all three friends.
That's what I'm saying.
He knew Maria and Patrick were having an affair, but Patrick and Frederick were friends. Quote, friends.
Yeah, all my friends beat me in the head with a crowbar too sometimes.
Right. So it was definitely a situation where they were definitely having an affair, but Frederick knew, and they were all three friends or friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't something that was secret.
No.
So anyway, he hit him in the head with a crowbar. Effectively, this killed him. Then they covered him in lime, hoping that it would speed up the decomposition of his body.
Mm-hmm.
It's not what happened. Actually, all it did was keep the smell from being overwhelming. So then they buried him under the flagstones in their kitchen. So there's these big stones that, go on the floor. Maria wasted little time. The next morning, she showed up at his house, and she convinced his landlady to let her into his lodgings. And while in there, she rifled through everything that he had, and she took everything that she could find that was valuable, including several £100 worth of cash, a lot of foreign bonds, gold watches, and some gold chains. Anything she could find, basically. But she did not think that it was quite enough. It wasn't quite what she thought she would find. And the next day, she decided to go back. So she went back the next day. This is 2 days in a row. And she went through his stuff. But she wasn't able to find any more bonds, which is what she thought Patrick had. So she was disappointed, but she was there 2 days in a row. And the landlady saw her.
Well, yeah. Well, clearly this landlady had seen her a few other times in the past, too. So they must have had quite the affair.
Yeah, probably. Probably not just letting some random person come in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she's just a real terrible landlady, but, you know, I mean, if this dude's got money.
Yeah.
It just seems a little weird that I mean, she must have recognized her. But if you're a landlady, she's like a nosy ass landlady who sees this dude bringing this girl to his house all the time and is willing to let her in. It's going to be a little suspicious when she keeps seeing this woman show up, but she never sees her actual tenant show up.
Yeah.
Little sketch, getting a little sloppy there, Maria. Getting
definitely
sloppy.
is. I mean, the landlady is not the person who turned it in, who, you know, said that he was missing. She did not, but she came back forward later, which...
That's because she ain't one to gossip.
I guess. Just keep it to herself.
Yeah, you didn't hear it from me.
So 3 days after the murder, on August 12th, 2 of Patrick's work colleagues showed up at the Mannings' house looking for him. And Maria, she admitted that he'd come by with a friend on the 8th, but she said that's the last time that she saw him. But this was strange because, like, as I mentioned earlier, a couple of Patrick's friends had seen him crossing London Bridge on the 9th, and he had mentioned that he was on the way to the Mannings' home to have dinner with Maria. Instantly suspicious here.
What? This dude's people from work know that he goes and bangs this Maria girl? Like, Fred.
Well, yeah, I mean, his cousin actually, his cousin was also his colleague, but he's the one who alerted these other 2 colleagues because he was like, hey, my cousin hasn't come into work. So he told his other 2 colleagues who then went to Maria's house and investigated. So
well,
it wasn't
the
like
whole town knows that he's going and banging Maria.
Yeah, but I think it's more that Patrick is not the type of person to miss work at all. So he missed a couple days
I
of work.
know you're missing the point, though. Fred, my dude. The whole town knows that your wife is getting banged.
This was not a secret.
I know what not a secret from your spouse is, but from London, like, golly, people. Come on.
Open secret.
Fred.
I know.
Got no respect, Fred.
No, and that's a lot of the salaciousness of this whole
That's
thing.
probably why Patrick brought over a friend. He's like, hey, you want to come watch me bang this dude's wife? I'm just saying, I don't think that Fred can be jealous of this because clearly it's what the whole town knows. I mean, it doesn't strike me as a person who's like jealous of this guy. Well,
you know, he might have been. He might have just been one of those weak-willed people who just let his wife run all over him. It happens.
Yeah, I'm aware it happens.
Frequently.
I'm just saying, like, everybody in London knows that this dude is sleeping with Fred's wife. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, unless Fred's just super down and just is all about it, like, I don't know.
Been.
I mean, whatever. Just saying, it just seems real weird that the colleagues are going to come from work and be like, hey, so, is Patrick here? Because we know that he hangs out here all the time.
Well, he did mention to his friends on London Bridge that he was going to Maria's.
I know. Those are other people that he told that to also. Like,
he was clearly not very, like, secretive with this.
No, he was quite proud of it.
Yeah, also there was in one of these sources that I read, that they made a point of saying that Maria's intimate relationship with Patrick was far more active than with her husband.
Yeah.
So
it's all over London.
It's all over London.
Or wherever.
She seems like she didn't really pay a lot of attention to Frederick, so.
Yeah, I mean, and now Frederick is an accessory to murder.
Spoiler. Not really, because that was the opening.
It's the opening, and we've already talked that he just hit him in the head with a crowbar. Not even an accessory. Like, he's an accomplice. He's technically the murderer.
Yeah, I mean, he hit him in the head with a crowbar. I mean,
yeah, Just saying, yeah. The killing blow was struck by this dude.
Yeah, it was definitely a tag team effort.
Oh, come on now. Are we talking about their sexual relationship or?
So anyway, Maria insisted that Patrick's friends were mistaken and that they had not actually seen, meaning Maria and Frederick, had not actually seen Patrick at all that day. And then, of course, she attempted to divert suspicion by asking them to please let her know if they found out where he was and if he was okay. And once they left, Frederick flew into a panic, insisting that these were not his colleagues and they had to be policemen.
Yeah, because Frederick probably was not, he probably didn't realize that like everybody in London knew that they were having an affair. And he's like, they have to be detectives. Like, how else would they know? And she's like, I mean, he's here. I guess the most suspicious thing was saying that he wasn't here one day.
It made Frederick fly off into a panic, and this caused Maria to fly off into a panic also. The couple decided that they should flee now from the police. Maria sent Frederick to a relative with instructions to sell whatever furniture that he could for money. And as soon as he left out of the house, she took everything of value that was in their house, and she took it for herself and set off in a cab. Frederick got home to realize that she'd fled in the cab without him, and he was on his way to Jersey because he was like, I guess I'm on my own now.
This dude should have gone right to the police and been like, my wife is a murderer. She killed this dude. I'm sure you've heard of him. It's Patrick, the guy who she's banging. You guys know that, right? Like, everybody knows that. She killed him. And now she's gone. I'll show you where he is. Like, yeah, that's what he should have done. He should have rolled on her so fast.
He could have changed it, but probably not.
I mean, it's not likely like that people are just going to assume that the wife was the mastermind behind a murder, and all of a sudden your wife is gone and her lover is gone. He would have to show the body to the police in order to make that, but still, they're going to think that he killed her too until they find her. But this dude is stupid.
Oh, absolutely.
He's real dumb. Clearly, this guy is dumb, and obviously, she is probably not capable of flipping a bunch of flagstones to put a body under the floor. Nope, he should have shown that body and been like, this is that dude that everyone is aware that my wife is sleeping with. And she killed him, put him onto the floor here, and then she dipped out, go find her. And then they find her and they say, you killed this dude. And then she'll be like, okay.
Well, he was not that smart.
Clearly not.
So the police at this point were investigating all of this. They were investigating Patrick's disappearance. At this point, they were aware. They spoke to his landlady, who told them that a woman matching Maria's description had been in his room twice since his disappearance and had ransacked it. Like I said, that's kind of dumb.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they went to the Mannings' home and they discovered that it was empty of its occupants. They went inside and they noticed that some of the mortar between the kitchen flagstones was still damp. Pretty suspicious, right? So it's just like not all the mortar, just some of it, no other evidence of construction or anything. So they went and they pulled it up and they found the body of Patrick O'Connor under the flagstones.
That seems like such an easy thing to cover.
I mean, you just got to wait for it to dry. There wasn't enough time.
Or just dirty it up, or I don't know, get a carpet.
Put a rug over it.
Yeah, like, come on. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that was just like the thing to do back in 1845 was to bury people under your floorboards. But like, I mean, Telltale Heart kind of style. I don't know, but like, it seems like a pretty easy thing to hide with a little bit of dirt. You just put a little dirt in there, rub it into the grout, and you're like, yeah, it's been there for a long time. They're just very good at what they do over there at the old Scotland Yard.
Yeah, they noticed it pretty quickly.
Apparently.
So they found his body, and they decided that they now had to track these guys down, and the hunt was on for the Mannings.
This week's sponsor is that feeling that somebody is watching you from the shadows. Whether crossing a parking lot alone or walking past a shadow-filled alleyway, this week's sponsor provides you that unsettling worry that you are about to get grabbed and probably killed.
I'm not a fan of that feeling.
The long seconds, well, yeah. And, it's about time that we recognize that something in the shadows has been watching you this whole time.
Oh, God.
And that's why we have this sponsor. The long seconds fishing for the light in a pitch black room comes to you courtesy of this week's sponsor, Watchers in the Shadows. Making long hallways and dark places a source of anxiety since dark places. A big thank you from us at Macabrepedia for keeping us scared. Also, we would like to thank Sean S331 for leaving a 5-star review. It is appreciated. Making content can be fun, and it's feedback that helps keep us trying to get better, more entertaining, and worthy of your time. If you have a podcast or you're thinking about starting one, I would recommend Buzzsprout. It is the podcasting host that we use. Buzzsprout is easy to use, has tons of features such as dynamic content, which allows you to go back and add a commercial or extra information at the beginning and or middle of any of the previously published episodes. They also have magic mastering, which helps balance out level changes and sound inconsistency. Buzzsprout also has helpful videos and support that they put out there for you for free. They have a YouTube channel, podcasts, all kinds of stuff to help you out with that. It's very easy to find. It's a great service that we chose after comparing and researching a number of hosts. Check them out. We also have an affiliate link in the show notes. If you follow that link and sign up for a paid subscription, you help out Macabrepedia and also get a $20 gift card, which is cool. And now,
Woohoo.
So back to murder stuff.
So once word got out that the Mannings were wanted, the cabman who had taken Maria from her home came forward and told the police that she had traveled to Southeastern Railway. She had then been driven to King's Cross Station, where 2 attendants remembered seeing a woman matching her description with a heavy French accent who was acting very nervous. She had then taken a train to Edinburgh, and after hearing this, police telegraphed the Edinburgh police, who reported that she was already in custody.
Why would she already be in custody?
Well, I'm glad you asked. She had taken Patrick's bonds and tried to sell them, using the story that her father was a native Scotsman. But her French accent did not lend itself to that story, and they had already been warned that some stock had been stolen in London. So they decided they'd take her into custody, and they did. And once they heard from the London police, they transferred her to London, where she was then charged with the murder of Patrick O'Connor.
And Fred lived happily ever after.
Well, for about another week, and that's when Frederick was taken into custody himself, because he had lost himself in prodigious amounts of brandy until he was seen by somebody who knew him. And then that individual turned him in, and then Frederick was taken into custody as well for the murder. And when they finally arrested him, Frederick asked if Maria had been arrested. And then when the police told him that she had been, he acted happy and immediately blamed her for the entire thing.
Yeah. Of course, he just waited too damn long, and now it's not going to be any. It's not going to be any use.
Right. Not only that, but a great relationship here. Like, this is just stellar. But the police were not buying it because the flagstones that they had buried Patrick under were super heavy, and Maria could not have lifted them by herself. So clearly, he was involved.
I knew that was going to come back and bite him.
Yeah, exactly. So they let him talk though, because they figured that they would have a better shot at convicting them both if they were pitted against each other. And then they decided that they would have a mutual trial. And this mutual trial started on October 25th, and it only lasted for 2 days. Some of the evidence here included bloodstains on Maria's dress and the fact that she had been the one who had bought that quicklime and the shovel right before Patrick died. They pretty much just figured Frederick was guilty no matter what. I actually did not see any evidence, like, specifically against him, except that he was probably involved because the flagstones were heavy. They just kind of figured, you did it.
Between letting him just kind of talk himself into guilt and then having this, like, combined trial where because this dude seems like he just, like, sings like a songbird, just ready to just, talk himself into guilt. So
yeah, and he absolutely did.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it definitely seems like that. It seems like they don't. He seems like a dude who's super easy to be manipulated.
Yeah.
But, hey, I don't know, Fred. Sorry if I'm wrong about you. I don't think I am, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he blamed her for the entire thing, but she blamed him for the entire thing. So it seemed like they just expected the other one to take most of the blame for this. The jury was not having it. It took only 45 minutes to find them both guilty of murder. And they were both sentenced to hang, of course, because this is a capital offense. Maria lost it on the jurors, accusing them of treating her like a, quote, wild beast of the forest. And she also ranted at the judge when he sentenced her to hang. So she was very dramatic. She was also reported to have asked her escorts when they took her back to the jail if they liked her performance in court.
Asking that, I mean, I guess it's about inflection. Oh, did you like what you saw? Did you like watching me have to do that? You know what I mean? Or was it like, hey, how'd I do? I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille.
Well, from what I read, it was more like she was in a manic state when she got back. So she was genuinely excited. It is quite unclear if Frederick went along with all this because he was either jealous of Patrick or he was a co-conspirator in trying to get Patrick's money, or if he was just trying to go along with it. Because at this time, attempted murder carried with it the sentence of hanging. So he may have just been trying to avoid the gallows, or at least keeping Maria away from the gallows, by helping to finish him off and hide the body to cover it up. If Patrick had gotten loose, he had escaped them and told somebody, then...
Which he would have, because he walks around the city telling everybody where the hell he's going every 15 steps.
Yeah, he seems like he has some pretty loose lips. But if he had done that, and they had found out that they had attempted to murder him, that would also lead them to hang. That's one option, that he was just also helping to cover it up.
That's probably what she said to get Frederick to help. It was like, if he doesn't die, you're going to hang anyways,
Yeah,
sure.
maybe.
Like, I mean, I bet she turned on him with some venom, and just the guy just broke under the fear, like when the guy showed up at the house looking for Patrick, Frederick was losing his mind thinking they're cops and everything. He seems like a paranoid dude, and she probably played on that to get him to help murder. And then be like, you're going to go down for this. It's the husband that does it, and I'll try to protect you the best I can. Go sell all the furniture.
Yeah. She seems pretty manipulative. I mean, she was so long ago, and it's hard to judge somebody based upon this stuff, but that is the impression that I'm getting for sure. And that's also the way it was spun in the newspapers and stuff, that she was just the mastermind in all this. And that's why so many people were interested in it. At any rate, they both were sentenced to hang. They spent 2 weeks in their cells before the scheduled day of their execution. And during this time, Maria was placed on suicide watch, which was standard practice at this time because another prisoner had actually succeeded in hanging herself 2 years prior in the same place where Maria was being kept.
But how dumb is that? They're already going to die, and you're like, oh, well, don't do it before we get to watch.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
messed
much.
up.
I don't know. So because of this, they had 3 female guards sleep in her room with her. But she still tried to kill herself on the morning of her execution. She had really long nails, and she attempted to strangle herself and puncture her own windpipe. It took the efforts of all 3 of these women to stop her and get her arms off of her neck. During these 2 weeks, she also wrote a couple of letters. I mentioned earlier that when she was working as a lady's maid for the Duchess, she met Queen Victoria. So she wrote Queen Victoria asking for a reprieve, but the Queen was interested in it. She read it, reportedly, but Maria's guilt was pretty obvious, so she didn't step in to stop the execution. Another letter was sent to Frederick asking him to take on all of the guilt and claim credit for it, but he refused.
Good on you, Fred.
Right. He did, however, confess that she had shot him, and he had been the one to bash his head in with the crowbar. So we think that's probably what happened. Makes the most sense. Frederick admitted to it, right?
Actually, what did he call it? He called it a something chisel?
Yeah, it's more or less the same thing.
Yeah, but it's way cooler with the way that he said it. What was it?
He called it a ripping chisel.
That's such a badass thing. That's a murder weapon. A crowbar is not a murder weapon. A ripping chisel?
Isn't a crowbar in Clue, though? It's one of the murder weapons.
It is a revolver, a dagger, a lead pipe, a rope, a candlestick, and a wrench.
So she wrote this letter to Frederick asking him to take the blame. Why did she do this, though, if they were both already sentenced to hang? At the time, Victorian law said that A wife could not be considered an accessory to the fact if her husband murdered someone. So if he had planned it and committed the murder all on his own, then it was then her duty as his wife legally to cover it up. However, if they both shared in the planning and the committing of the murder, they could both hang. So if he had taken the credit fully and he had said that she had just helped him cover it up, she would not have hanged.
I mean, after the trial and everything has already happened and all this stuff, she thinks that he's just going to, like, after they bickered and argued and stuff in court and made a big old scene there, and she's all a wild forest pig or whatever she said she was.
Oh, my God.
And then, well, whatever she described herself as. And then all of a sudden he's going to be like, okay. She had nothing to do. No.
Well, she was desperate. She was going to die.
All right. We'll give credit where credit's due. You never know until you ask.
Yeah.
Hey, Fred, you willing to hang by yourself? Because it would really mean a lot.
You're gonna hang anyway, right? So
yeah, it'd really be really cool of you if you would just, let me live.
Yeah, but he didn't. So.
No, because he's in there because of her. It's her freaking mess. Now he's gonna die because of it. Panicky, spineless little shit.
Yeah. So then we get to the date of the execution. This is November 13th, 1849. At 8:15 a.m. that morning, the sacrament was given to both Frederick and Maria Manning before their executions were scheduled to take place. So they tied Frederick's arms, which he allowed without a fuss at all. When they tried to do it with Maria, she nearly fainted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she was given some brandy to come around, and she did, and then she allowed her arms.
Fred was like, oh, wait, hold on.
I'm a little faint, too.
I feel faint.
Yeah.
Somebody catch me with some brandy.
But they did end up tying her arms also. They called this pinioning. And she also requested at this time that she get a blindfold and a veil over her face, and they did grant this for her. And then they were led to the gallows where a crowd was waiting to witness them to die. So she was actually led blindfolded. Somebody just kind of like took her hand and led her to the gallows. People from all social classes were here. The crowd was absolutely massive. It was somewhere between 30 and 50,000 people. Easily the biggest crowd to witness a public execution in Britain.
That's a sporting event size.
Massive, right? I mean, I guess it was the event of the day.
What else are you going to do with your Saturday?
Yeah.
Besides, let's go grab some jelly babies, some jammy Dodgers, and then go and watch a hanging.
I don't think that was around in 1849.
You don't think a jammy Dodger was
Well,
around?
not a jelly baby.
Well, that depends on when the doctor showed up, doesn't it? You may proceed.
Oh, I thought you were looking up jammy Dodgers.
I am. 1960s.
Okay. People were fascinated with this whole thing involving Maria and her affair with Patrick and the fact that she seemed to be the dominant partner in the relationship who planned murdering Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Everything just lent itself to this. She was also a foreigner, having been born in Switzerland, and she had a, quote, cold and calculating demeanor. So all this just added to the intrigue, right? And of course, it was covered extensively in newspapers at the time. Even Charles Dickens, a very famous author, was there to witness it. Maria and Frederick had to climb a tall and steep set of stairs to get to the platform, which is above the main gate where they were. And then white linen hoods were drawn over their heads before the noose was placed around their necks. This was done so that the crowd could not see the final agonizing moments on their faces. Common practice this time, actually. Maria went to the gallows with a black lace veil and a black satin gown. As I said, this crowd was huge, so it was also very diverse. Some of the more fashionable ladies in the crowd, some of whom used opera glasses to get a better look, were
Sensible.
angry. Yeah, it was sensible. Very big crowd. But they were angry about what she'd chosen to wear. And because of this, black satin dresses were rumored to go out of fashion for 30 years after the execution because of this. And some say that they kissed before they were hanged to forgive each other, but we don't really know if that's true. Maybe. If you're about to die, what have you got to lose? Maria's legs were then tied up so that her gown would not fly up when she dropped. Everyone except for the Mannings left the platform, and the executioner withdrew the bolt that caused the drop to fall down and the Mannings to fall. Frederick died quickly, but Maria struggled for a few seconds. It was the custom to leave them hanging for about an hour, and then they would take them down and bury them, covered in lime dust, as they had done with Patrick. And Charles Dickens, actually, he witnessed this and he wrote about it, and he said, quote, "The woman's fine shape, so elaborately corseted and artfully dressed, that it was quite unchanged in its trim appearance as it slowly swung from side to side. And after this happened, the crowd began to leave pretty much immediately. They did not stick around at all. They were dead, they left. They were like, well, that was not that great.
Such a huge build-up for nothing.
Right.
And not only that, she wore it better.
It was very fashionable. Like, she looked good. From everything I read, it was like, no, she looked great. It's just they were mad that this murderess was wearing it. Now they couldn't wear it. I don't know. Fashion. As I said, Charles Dickens was there. He wrote about the event and the morbid fascination of the crowd. Not really as much about the Mannings. He didn't have a lot of sympathy for them, but he thought that it was really twisted how voyeuristic it was with all of these people there to watch the execution. People sold drinks and snacks for it, and 2.5 million broadsides were printed for it.
Which are like flyers.
Yeah. So some people even paid extra for better seats. And as I said, some women used opera glasses to get a better look. And there was some disappointment that they died so quickly. And this was one event that led Charles Dickens himself to advocate to get rid of public executions, because him and other people just thought this was just twisted. And because of their advocation, they did get it abolished, and public executions were abolished in Britain in 1868. And actually, Maria herself became an inspiration in one of Dickens's novels, which was Bleak House. And the character that was inspired by her was Mademoiselle Hortense.
And that is it for this week's entry. As always, we welcome your feedback. We would love to hear your thoughts on this or any other episode. Of course, you can leave us a review and a comment on Apple Podcast, as well as reach us on Twitter and Facebook at Macabrepedia, or on Instagram,
which is at Macabrepedia Pod. And you can, of course, reach us at Gmail at macabrepediapod@gmail.com. And Macabrepedia is MACABREPEDIA.
Thanks for listening. Please join us next week as we add another entry into this, our Macabrepedia.